Well, welcome back. We're going to pick up with the Civil War stories again. This will be the second video for the Civil War stories. So we're going back to the beginning. We saw in the last video Companies E and Company H of the 7th Infantry putting together here in Logan County, going to Camp Yates and then on down to Camp Du Bois at Alton. And there's more going on during that period of time than just people getting ready for war and preparing for war and committing war. What we have a lot of at home, a lot of political things going on, a lot of loyalty things going on. Many of these union meetings that went on around the county and the men who spoke at those, the respected men who were respected at all other things that they did. And we're going to start today with one of the themes of the humor that existed prior to the hostilities beginning on the 12th of April, 1861. And the first one of these that came up in the paper was from January 2nd of 1861. So Lincoln had not been inaugurated yet. Buchanan was still president. And we had some political groups in the county and around the nation, actually, that competed with one another. And one of them was called the Wide Awakes. Now, the Wide Awakes were a group of young men who wanted everybody to know exactly what was going on. You know, don't hide anything from us so that we know what's going on and how to make our decisions. They were in response to another political ideology that was going on at the time called the Know-Nothings. And the Know-Nothings were a party of usually the Democrats at the time, and they didn't want to know anything. They just wanted to leave everything the way it was and not know new things. So this letter, it's a fake letter, by the way. We know what those are, don't we? January 2nd, 1861, Attention Wide Awakes. And this is to the Wide Awakes at Atlanta, Illinois, who were very active and did a lot of work for Mr. Lincoln when he was campaigning for the presidency. So, attention Wide Awakes, Washington City. Captain Estabrook, Sir, having been officially advised that the state of Lawndale has seceded from the Union, you are hereby commanded to hold yourself in company of Wide Awakes in readiness at a moment's warning, with your lamps filled and with your fluid, with your jug of whiskey to whip them into Union again. Then at Washington, this 14th of day of December 1860. J. Buchanan, President. Lewis Cass, Secretary of State. And there's a note here from the editor. It says this dispatch was received last week, but not in time to go in the paper. Now, the Wide Awakes in Logan County left us some artifacts, and they're talking about these lamps being filled with fluid. You can see one of those in Lincoln, as a matter of fact, at the Heritage Museum, Abraham Lincoln Heritage Museum. They have one of those lamps out there that the Wide Awakes use for their torchlight parades. So that was a bit of humor. And there was another one just prior to the hostilities beginning with Fort Sumter, and this actually was a day before this appeared in the paper. Then after that, these kinds of things fell by the wayside and things got pretty serious. But this one is from April 11th, the day before Fort Sumter. It says 2 Mile Grove secedes. 6 men testify on oath that Jeff Davis is President of the United States. So Logan County, I'll read it to you here. It says, Logan County, prepare for war. We received a dispatch from Mount Pulaski yesterday stating that the 2 Mile Grove had seceded. The facts are briefly as follows. Last fall, a Democrat sold 30 head of cattle to a Republican for $3 a head. $3 a hundred, excuse me. If Lincoln was elected, and $3.50 if he wasn't elected. $3 were paid on delivery of the cattle, and another 50 cents to be paid if events so determine. Lincoln being elected, our Republican friend thought the contract already complied with Saturday last. However, the Democrat dunned him for the 50 cents. And on its being refused, the parties agreed to arbitrate the matter. 12 judges were selected, and after a lengthy investigation of the case, the contract being written, six of them, all Democrats, decided that Jeff Davis, being President of the United States, was the Republicans should pay the extra 50 cents. So we have these, and you might get a little confused when you listen to these stories I'm going to be sharing with you, because it's going to, what's talked about the Democrats is what we're hearing now about the Republicans and vice versa. So somewhere along the way, and from what I've read and studied, in the 1960s, there was a big switch where the Solid South Democrats shifted over to the Republican Party, with the results that we're seeing now. So now we have these loyalty things going on. The union meetings, and they're sporadic through the book. But the first one that's listed here is the 18th of April, 1861. The union meeting at the courthouse last night was a grand one. Eloquent speeches were made by Misters Parks, Wyatt, Young, and Callan. All of them denounced the traitors and avowed themselves for the Union at all hazards. The courtroom was densely crowded. Captain Wyatt is receiving recruits at his office. Books open this morning. Company to be ready to leave by Saturday. So we have this continuous recruiting going on in the county. And like I said in the last video, the draft was never used in Logan County during the Civil War. And then we have Republicans and Democrats going at each other within the county. And this next letter is from a member of a citizen of Logan County who is a Democrat and has been accused of being non-loyal. So to the public, whereas false and very erroneous impressions have been put in the circulation of my true position towards our government, I take this method of correcting those false impressions by declaring myself a true friend of our Constitution and that I ever have been. Given under my hand this 23rd day of April 1861, G.W. Turley. And Mr. Turley lived, I believe, down in the Mount Pulaski area. Most of the Turleys are from that area. And the editor followed up with a notice saying, since the above was written, a son of Mr. Turley has enrolled himself in the volunteers. Now, one of the other organizations, military organizations, that was being organized at the same time as the federal military is the Home Guards. And it says the Home Guards will meet at the courthouse tomorrow night. Important business will be transacted. and we'll hear more about the Home Guards later on. And by the way, there is a 1862 census for Logan County listing the men who would be eligible for the Home Guards. Okay, Rifle Company. An independent rifle company is being formed at the office of David Blaine and Brothers, where those desiring to join can enroll at their business. Then I'm skipping a couple of things that you already know about from last time we got together. And we're going over to one called Adopted Citizens Attention. And this is directed towards the naturalized immigrants that wish to help their adopted country. Dr. Thomas Clark of Lincoln, Logan County, is authorized by Governor Yates and the Adjutant General to raise a company of volunteers for the support of the Constitution and enforcement of the laws and appeals, especially to his fellow citizens by adoption, to come forward promptly at this critical moment of their country's peril in response to the call. Now is the time to vindicate your loyalty to our adopted country and its glorious stars and stripes, whose integrity we have sworn to maintain and beneath whose folds alone we can look for protection, and which is the only hope of downtrodden millions everywhere. The office in Lincoln at Mayfield's Hall will be open at all times to receive volunteers and let our friends in Atlanta, Mount Pulaski, Elkhart, Broadwell, Middletown, and other points register their names with persons whom they can appoint for the purpose, and when the company is full, it can elect its officers and hold itself in readiness for further orders. So we have the immigrants being encouraged to get involved. The loyalty things continue here too. The stars and stripes are now unfurled in all our principal public and business places. Lincoln is almost a unit for the Union. Those who are opposed to the movement are for the government, provided slavery can be spread everywhere by the Constitution. To such men we say, you are either for your country or against it. Look before you leap. Slavery was the issue, and that's what got Mr. Lincoln back into politics, is when they decided to let the new states and territories determine by themselves what they wanted, whether they want to be a free territory or a slave territory. So it was the encroachment pushing slavery into the West, and they also were pushing for slaveholders to move slaves about in the northern states and remain slaves. Now, there were laws in the books at the time that if a slave was taken into the north, they became free. And that was wanting to be undone by these folks. Middletown. A union meeting was held in Middletown on Friday night, which was addressed by Messrs. Wemple and Ring of Mount Pulaski and William G. Bates of this place, meaning Lincoln. Middletown responded with about a dozen volunteers. And then they were talking about the volunteers here in the next couple of articles. So it's good for Logan County. 2 companies have already been organized in this county, numbering respectively 84 and 120 men. And we saw those 2 companies in the last video. The movement is on foot to get up 3 additional companies. Hurrah for Logan! A vast concourse of people assembled at the depot to bid adieu to the soldiers. And that departure was the guys that we met last week. More troops wanted. The loyal states are called upon to make up the deficiency in the number of troops called for by the president, owing to the refusal of the border slave states to furnish their quota. Illinois will promptly furnish 6 more regiments if called for. it is more than probable that the requisition on Illinois will be doubled. So we have the border states, which were slave states, but loyal to the Constitution, were a little slow in getting their people together to organize militaries. But there was a lot of support for the Union in those states, and they did come with their own regiments, Union regiments, not Southern regiments. And they may have had people go into the South and fight on that side. Logan County ahead. On Friday last, Captain Wyatt's company, the Lincoln Guards, left home for Camp Yates. They were met at Springfield Depot by the Grays and by them escorted to the camp. They were first company to arrive on the grounds. Logan County has already furnished nearly 250 men, and 3 companies are now forming, which will be ready for the executive if the executive makes another call. Mr. Coddington, south of town, has erected a splendid pole and unfurled upon it the emblem of all patriots. Mr. C is a Democrat and a strong Union man. All hail to the stars. May they twinkle, light, and arouse liberty and courage over all the land and among the aspiring of all nations. So we have the loyalty and the support for the Union going on in these ways. Cavalry. Captain John Wyatt of Logan County is raising and has nearly completed a company of cavalry, mainly in Logan County. Names of the members will also be received at Camp Yates by Captain W.D. Wyatt. This is a branch of the service absolutely indispensable, and the gentleman above named has received the highest assurance that they will be at once put into duty. Volunteers for the above company will be received at Seawright and Company store in Lincoln. Pitch in, boys, there is fight enough for all. Logan County is bound to be represented, and her boys know no such word as run. And then there were the threatening things that were going on too. In this case, threats towards traitors. In this particular story, somebody had hung an effigy, human effigy, in the stockyard on Chicago Street, which would have been 2 or 3 blocks north of Broadway, between Chicago Street and the railroad track. And it says, "The fate of traitors north and south," was written in large letters on an effigy suspended on a beam in the cattle yard Monday. It was the size of a man and indicative of the end of traitors. Treason will not be allowed to show its monster head in these parts without a rope. On leaving for Camp Yates, Captain W.D. Wyatt made a strong speech for the Union. An excellent patriotic adieu was also read by Miss Judy. The crowd shouted and laughed and cried alternately as the brave company moved away. The gallant fellows are at Springfield, awaiting impatiently for conflict. But of course they got to go through all the training to get ready for that. Another Union meeting. At a meeting of the citizens of Lincoln and vicinity held at the courthouse Saturday evening, A.B. Nicholson being called to the chair and G.H. Miller appointed secretary, the following resolutions were unanimously adopted. Eloquent and patriotic speeches were made by Messrs. Campbell, Austin, Callan, Fisk, Norton, and others after a company of Home Guards was organized. So we have the Home Guards available, and they are backups for probably the National Guard equivalent of that day. I won't read all of these resolutions except the last one. And it says that while we recognize the duty of thus sustaining the government and preserving the Constitution, we shall continue to seek a restoration of peaceful relations between the states, and we earnestly recommend that a national convention be called for a final adjustment in a constitutional manner of the difficulties now disturbing the peace and endangering the liberties of our beloved country. The report was adopted with shouts of unanimity, cheer upon cheer going up in support of the principles and policy of the resolutions. And then the article to the naturalized citizens apparently worked, because Dr. B. Syriacs of Atlanta will visit Lincoln, Mount Pulaski, and other towns in the country for the purpose of getting up a German rifle company. I can say here, in my other book, I discovered that the Germans did an excellent job of signing up. Of the people born outside the United States that participated, there were more Germans than any other nationality from Logan County. Make that caveat on that. Then I'm caught up with where we were last week, because we had those letters just right here. And another announcement from Atlanta. Our military company, now organized, was rejected in the last call on the ground that other companies more remote from Springfield have not been allowed their portion in the quota. We will not have a show for present, even in the call for 10,000 militia. So they're making the Logan County guys wait. Let somebody else have a chance to get involved here. And of course, we saw last week with the 7th that 2 of the 10 companies were from Logan County, the rest from other parts of the state. At this time, the state legislature rewrote the militia law. And if you wish to have a copy of that, send an email to the society, and I'll see you get a copy of that. And that's true of others of these articles. If you want copies of them, be glad to send them to you.